Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpa Turupyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Eva Cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. We're starting Bhagavad Gita, continuing on chapter 13, and we're starting on text 30 today. So if everyone can repeat. Prakrityaiva cha karmani.
Prakrityaiva cha karmani.
Kriyamanani savashaha.
Kriyamanani sarvasha.
Ya pasyanti tatmatmanam.
Ya pachyanti tathatmanam.
Kartaram sapasyati.
Akartaram sapashyati.
Kartaram sapasati.
Prakrityaiva cha karmani.
Prakrityaiva cha karmani.
Kriyamanani savashaha.
Kriyamanani
Shaha.
Ya pasyati tatatmanam.
Ya
Pashyati tatatmanam
Akartaram sapasyati.
akartaram
sapashyati.
Prakrityaiva cha karmani.
prakrityaiva cha karmani
Kriyamanani savashaha.
kriyamanani sarvasha
Ya pasyati tatatmanam.
ya pashyati tatatmanam
Akartaram sapasyati.
akartaram pashyati.
Chant.
Prakrityaiva cha karmani
Prakrityaiva cha karmani.
kriyamanani sarvasaha
Kriyamanani
Savasa.
ya pashyati tatatmanam
Ya
pashyati
tatatmanam.
akartaram sapashyati.
Akartaram
Sapasyati.
sapasati.
Prakrityaiva cha karmani
Prakrityaiva cha karmani.
kriyamanani sarvashah
Kriyamanani sarvashaha.
ya pashyati tatatmanam
Ya pasyati tatatmanam.
akartaram sapashyati.
Akartaram sapasyati.
Prakriti cha karmani
Prakrityaiva cha karmani.
kriyamanani sarvashaha
Kriyamanani
Kriyamanani
sarvashaha.
ya pashyati tatatmanam
ya pashyati cha tatatmanam
akataraham sapashyati.
akartaram sapashyati.
Prakrityaiva cha karmani. Prakrityaiva cha karmani. Kriyamanani sarvashaha.
Kriyamanani cha sarvashah
Sarvashaha.
Ya pashyati tatatmanam
ya pashyati cha tatatmanam
akartaram sapashyati.
Akartaram
sapashyati.
Prakritya,
Yeah.
by material nature.
Material nature.
Eva,
Eva.
certainly.
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 Cha,
Cha.
also.
Also.
Karmani,
Kamani.
activities.
Activities.
Kriyamani,
Priyamani.
Kriyamanani.
being performed.
Performed.
Sabashaha,
Sarvashah.
in all respects.
In all respects.
Ya,
Yeah.
anyone who
anyone who
pasyati,
pashyati,
sees,
sees,
tata,
tata,
also,
also,
atmanam,
atmanam,
respects,
himself,
anyone who,
Anyone
anyone
who
who
pasyati,
pashyati,
sees,
sees,
tata,
tata,
also,
also,
atmanam,
atmanam,
himself,
himself,
akartaram,
akartaram,
the non-doer,
the non-doer,
saha,
saha,
he,
he,
pasyati,
pashyati,
sees perfectly.
sees perfectly.
One who can see that all activities are performed by the body, which is created of material nature, and sees that the self does nothing, actually sees. So we can repeat. One who can see, oh, is it everybody's muted?
One who can see
One person faintly. That all activities
That all activities
activities
are performed by the body,
are performed by the body,
which is created of material nature,
which is created of material nature,
and sees that the self
and sees that the self
does nothing,
does nothing,
nothing.
actually sees.
actually sees.
Purport. This body is made by material nature under the direction of the supersoul. And whatever activities are going on in respect to one's body are not his doing. When it's his, not the supersoul, but the individual soul's doing. Whatever one is supposed to do, either for happiness or for distress, one is forced to do because of the bodily constitution. The self, however, is outside all these bodily activities. This body is given according to one's past desires. To fulfill desires, one is given the body with which he acts accordingly. Practically speaking, the body is a machine designed by the Supreme Lord to fulfill desires. Because of desires, one is put into difficult situations or circumstances to suffer or to enjoy. This transcendental vision of the living entity, when developed, makes one separate from bodily activities. One who has such a vision is an actual seer. Translation again. One who can see that all activities are performed by the body, which is created of material nature, and sees that the self does nothing, actually sees. So, we always say how you're not the body. I mean, this is another example of not only how you're not the body, but how you see things. We're supposed to, there's a saying, Shastra Chakshus. Shastra Chakshus means seeing through the eyes of the scriptures. So when they describe something like this, how we're not the body, how the body is just like a machine made of material nature, then we should try to accept that. We have to try to see it that way. This body is made by material nature under the direction of the supersoul. And whatever activities are going on in respect to one's body are not his doing. So we're the soul. That's the whole thing. We have nothing to do with this body. Body is doing doing so many things. And what I find interesting is in the purport, whatever one is supposed to do, either for happiness or for distress, one is forced to do because of the bodily constitution. So we have desires. We get this body and we're forced to try to act, and we have to suffer. Now, in the purport, the self, however, is outside. The self, however, is outside all these bodily activities. The body is giving according to one's past desires. So because of our past desires, we get a certain body. Sometimes it's a human body, but that's also because of past desires. But it could even be an animal body according to our past desires. If you want to, there's a picture, I don't know if it's in this Bhagavad Gita, but old Bhagavad Gitas would have a picture of a man who's eating anything indiscriminately, just a big overweight man, and then the next thing is he becomes a hog. There's a picture of a hog. So according to our desires, if you just want to eat indiscriminately anything and everything, then why have a human body? You can be a hog. They eat anything, even stool. If you want to sleep all the time, these are the pictures. I don't know if it's in this big Bhagavad Gita, as I said. But if you want to sleep all the time, or a real lot, then you can take a body of a bear and sleep, 6 months out of the year. Wouldn't that be nice? Okay, so there's eating, sleeping, mating. If you want to just mate all the time, then you can take birth as a pigeon. They mate so many different times in a day, pigeons. If you want to, there was a picture. I'm not sure if that was a picture of the pigeons, but there was a picture of a woman like showing her body. Was practically naked, like with a bikini on in the picture. But people who like to stand naked, they could take birth as a tree and stand naked for so long. So our body, we get a particular body according to one's past desires. So it says also, if you take to Krishna consciousness, to take the spiritual life, then in your next life, you'll automatically be attracted to the yogic principles or to spiritual life, genuine spiritual life. So we can say pretty much everyone listening here has some experience of this in a past life, and that's why they're starting again where they left off. So that's a good sign, but we still have this body and we still have other desires. But we get the particular body according to our not just desires, but in one sense it is desires, because if I desire something, I'm going to act in such a way to obtain that. And because of those actions, that's going to determine my next body. Self, however, is outside all these bodily activities. The body is given according to one's past desires. To fulfill desires, one is given the body with which he acts accordingly. Because we don't need a body to fulfill desires, but we need a body to fulfill material desires. If you have spiritual desires, you can have a spiritual body. I mean, you have a spiritual body, but you don't need to, and then you are that spiritual body. And you can fulfill your desires. But those spiritual desires are not selfish desires. They're not desires for you to enjoy. They're desires to give pleasure to Krishna, and so Krishna can enjoy. So that's when you get a spiritual body. So we're trying to change the way we think and how to enjoy. And lots of times this takes a long time, but it may seem like it takes a short time for some people, because they may have done it for so many lives before. So we're not all starting out at the same. Like you go to kindergarten, everyone pretty much starts out the same. Some people are more advanced because their parents taught them more. But let's just say at birth, you can say you start out the same. But you don't start out the same because there's karma. One person is born in a very intelligent, wealthy family, and he gets treated so nicely and educated. Another person is born in a poor, not very educated family, not very intelligent family. And then he doesn't get trained. So how do you even get in that position? Because of your past. And that's just a material body. so that you can fulfill your particular desires or try to fulfill them. But as you try to fulfill your desires, what happens is you wind up getting kicked by Maya. You know, Maya tempts us, here, try this, try this, try this. You try it and you get kicked. I remember a play we did called Big Fish, Little Fish. You can still see it on, at least there's at least one version I've seen online. I don't know if it's online. It must be online though, because I have it. It was on video, but not with me in it. But other devotees, many devotees did it. But we did this play, and every single part you play, there's this big fish and there's the little fish, and the little fish is trying to imitate the big fish and trying to enjoy it. It's kind of like what's supposed to be Krishna is the supreme enjoyer, and we're trying to be like Krishna, trying to enjoy. And Maya gives us so many different ways of enjoying. And every time we try to enjoy that way, we get smacked, we get kicked, we wind up suffering. So this is material activity. So when you become somewhat intelligent, after a while, you realize this does not really bring me happiness. It winds up bringing me more distress. So why should I bother with this? Let me just try to please Krishna's senses and see how that works. And if we do that, then we find we can actually be happy. And there's no other way in this material world to really be happy, because this flickering happiness, when we try to enjoy, we get some reaction and we wind up having to suffer. So to fulfill desires, one is given the body. Even like, for instance, there are ghosts. Ghosts don't have a body, but yet they don't have a gross body. They have a subtle body. So we're given a body. We're given both bodies. So we're given a subtle body and we're given a gross body. But as a ghost, you don't have a gross body to fulfill your desires. You want to enjoy and you can't because you don't have a body to enjoy. So this body is there to help us to get this enjoyment, in one sense, out of our system, or to experience the suffering one has to go through just to try to enjoy. So we are meant to enjoy. That's why we're looking for enjoyment. We are meant to be happy, and we are meant to be satisfied, and we're looking for that. But we're looking in the wrong place. We're looking in the material world and trying to enjoy through the senses of this body, which is like a machine, and we're the controller of this big machine. So we can't find any real happiness by fulfilling the desires of our senses. It doesn't matter how rich you are. We see people who are very wealthy commit suicide. People who have great big positions commit suicide. People are not happy. You can't be happy in this material world. I remember one devotee telling me about he was actually a very good wrestler. Not this wrestlers on the WW, whatever it's called. But there's in schools, in high schools, they have wrestling, and college, they have wrestling, and in the Olympics, I think they have wrestling. And so he wasn't an Olympian, but he was a good wrestler, and he wanted to get this trophy for wrestling. It's like the highest thing in this big competition. So he worked really hard for several years, and he got the trophy, and he said he put it up on his mantle, and he said it didn't do anything at all for him. It was just like, why did I go to all that trouble for this stupid thing? So you can't be satisfied with material happiness. And even if you are, it doesn't last. I'm happy. Okay, I got this big trophy. I feel real good. But then after a while, it doesn't do it for me anymore. So the material world, we're spirit souls in a foreign atmosphere trying to enjoy, and we can never become happy in that situation. So practically speaking, the body is a machine designed by the Supreme Lord to fulfill desires. So as I was mentioning about the ghost, that's why you become a ghost. You commit suicide, you can become a ghost. And you can't, it's a really horrible thing, because at least if I'm hungry, I can eat and I can become full. But as a ghost, you can feel hunger you can't be full. You can't eat. You can't satisfy anything. You feel lust, you can't satisfy lust. You can't do anything. You don't have a body. Sometimes ghosts try to use somebody else's body to enjoy, some weak person, weak-minded person. But there are ghosts, and it's not very good. It says you can become a ghost by committing suicide. You can become a ghost by dying while you're intoxicated. There are probably other ways. I don't remember, but we don't want to be a ghost because it's a very horrible position. And lots of times ghosts worship Lord Shiva so that they can get a body. And it says that Lord Shiva, if he sees someone engaged in illicit sex, he'll sometimes put that ghost in the semen, and then they take birth. So that's an example of sometimes people who have illicit sex have ghostly children. But anyway, we do have a body, and fulfilling the desires of this body ultimately doesn't satisfy us, although it does give us the Chapala Sukha, the flickering happiness, which the ghosts can't even get, but it doesn't make you happy at all in the ultimate issue. So because of desires, one is put into difficult circumstances to suffer or to enjoy. This transcendental vision of the living entity, when developed, makes one separate from bodily activities. One who has such a vision is an actual seer. So, I mean, and this is a vision. Imagine if people had this vision. Do you think there'd be any protests? You think there'll be anything? People wouldn't. Anyway, it's a whole new ball game if people can actually see. Not just people, even as devotees. We have to see this way. We have to make that effort. Another verse in the 18th chapter, text 61. The Supreme Lord is situated in everyone's heart, O Arjuna, and is directing the wanderings of all living entities. He's directing us, telling us where to go, what to do. And all the living entities who are seated as on a machine made of the material energy. We're seated on a machine, and we're just going along with this machine according to our desires. So we should try to develop this vision. Basically, it says over and over in so many places how we're not the body. And there's sometimes other people and other groups who are Vaishnavas, but who criticize the ISKCON because we just say how we're not this body. We have to go to a higher platform and have some of this realization of Krishna and the gopis and how that's such a higher taste. And we're not even off this bodily platform. You first have to get off the bodily platform before you can even try to relish those pastimes. Otherwise, you're just going to misunderstand them and just think they're material. So in so many cases, how many people see this with this vision that I'm just a soul, that this body is moving and I'm the soul within it. I have nothing to do with it. And there's another verse where whatever you're doing, like, anyway, there's so many verses in the Bhagavad Gita that explain how we're not this body. Now, Arjuna, he is, none of us can compare with the greatness of Arjuna, but yet he's telling Arjuna so many times the same message. Arjuna isn't saying, okay, I understand that. Now let's get on with the topics of Krishna of you with the gopis. Tell me about that. So, okay, I'm going to pause here for any questions or comments.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Yes.
Who's speaking?
And this is Omio.
Oh, okay. Haribol.
Very well, Prabhu. So, say I have a Krishna conscious mind. However, I want to sleep. So, next birth, will I be a bear or a devotee?
You have a Krishna conscious mind,
Yes, but
but
I would
you want to sleep?
yeah, I like
Okay.
to sleep more.
Okay.
So, I mean, so which one will take precedence? Will I be a better devotee next birth or?
I'm not sure what he's saying.
So he's practicing Krishna
Right.
consciousness, yet he likes to sleep a lot. You said if someone likes to sleep
Right.
a lot, they can get a body more conducive to sleep.
Okay. No, if you're going to get a minimum of a human birth to continue your Krishna consciousness. No, every one of us likes to do things we shouldn't be doing. It doesn't mean we're going to get a different body now because of that. Because we're trying to be devotees. We're trying to be Krishna conscious. So if you like to sleep, I mean, as a pure devotee, you just rest a little bit. Sleep is like death. It's like a waste of time. I mean, I know, I mean, I also like to sleep. I mean, but it's just a waste of time, but it's sometimes everyone needs to rest. You have to rest the body. Actually, the scientists said that you don't really have to rest the body. You don't need rest. You need rest for the mind. Physically, you don't need to sleep, or you don't need to sleep hardly at all. But somehow or other, the mind, you have to sleep. And I don't remember. I remember reading about it once, a scientist. So yes, you're a devotee. You're not going to get a bear's body in your next life.
Yeah, thank you, Prabhu. Well, I don't consider myself a devotee. I'm just trying. So
Well, you're definitely a devotee. Anyone who chants Hare Krishna is a devotee.
Okay, Prabhu. That I found
Yeah,
very
so you could sleep
assuring.
well tonight, not have to worry about being a bear.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Any other questions or comments?
I had a question from yesterday, Ganapati Govind's class. Can I ask?
Sure.
So this is maybe a technical question. The super soul within your heart is there is a feature as to how big it is? Is there is something, right, that describes it? Paramatma I'm talking about.
Well, there's some things said, I remember thumb size.
So then in his class, he said like the super soul is in every atom. So is it a different size in different?
No, anyway, thumb size according to the size of a person in an atom. They're definitely not thumb size if he's inside of an atom.
Atom, right?
He can get small. He says
smaller than the smallest.
Prabhupada gives the example that even in thumb size, the Supreme Lord still has all the powers.
Right.
Even within an atom, it doesn't matter what size he is.
Size he is. Okay.
I mean, it really makes no difference what size he is.
Mm-hmm.
Just knowing he's there. And he's also in between every atom.
Mm-hmm. And I think I had asked you a question in one of the previous classes that when you merge into the Brahma Jyoti, do you lose like all your personality or something? Then I read somewhere in the Bhagavatam that when you merge into the Brahma Jyoti, you're just like Krishna is the Jyoti is Krishna's effulgence. Your little spark effulgence merges into that effulgence.
Right. You give up your individuality.
Yeah. But your spark effulgence merges into the Krishna's unlimited.
Well, we were talking the other day about envy.
Mm-hmm.
And I was thinking about that. and thinking about when, when you're envious of someone, so what should you do? That you should serve them. So I was thinking about that. So I was thinking, that's another good reason to get rid of envy, and then you don't have to serve everybody.
When you get rid of envy, you want to serve everybody, I'm assuming.
I know, it was just a joke.
I know.
But you could look at it that way, because you have to serve those.
Yeah, for a lazy person, maybe let me just get rid of envy, then don't have to do anything.
Boy, there's an extra plus to get rid of envy. I don't have to serve this person anymore.
In fact, Srila Prabhupada said, what is, I think somebody asked him the question, like, what if I'm like lazy by nature or something like that? And
we can be lazy. That's something we can use in Krishna consciousness too, is be lazy for sense gratification.
Right.
It's too much trouble. It's just too much trouble. It's just too much work to try to enjoy sense gratification.
I think he gave the example, if like there's like a fire and then somebody says like, oh, it's too hot, or then he turns around and just sleeps on the other side. Or
yeah. No, that was a king who was going to, whoever was really truly lazy, that the king would supply him their food and take care of them. So, but he wanted to prove it. So they put all these people who say they're lazy inside of a house. And then they set the building on fire and everybody ran out. One person, he just went onto the other side because one side was a little too hot. So he was really lazy. So he got a free ride after that.
Another question I had, I was thinking, like, when I was offering Bhoga to Krishna, that in Goloka Vrindavan, I mean, all the mothers who are offering, sandesh to Krishna when he's going with his cowherd boys and making special things for Krishna, all the other mothers when he's going with the Gopas. So are they offering to somebody, or like, I know they're in Yogamaya, so are they offering it to like Vishnu or something?
Oh.
Before they give it to Krishna?
I kind of don't think so.
No?
I don't know.
Yeah, that's the other day, I think when I was like offering something, that thought came to my mind. I was just thinking, oh, is it good enough for Krishna? Then I said, like, what do they do in Goloka Vrindavan? Do the mothers just give it to Krishna without offering, or do they offer it to like Vishnu or something that they think needs to be offered?
I don't know what they think. I don't know if they have to follow the Vedas and stuff while they're there.
But I remember in somewhere where I read Mother Yashoda prays to Vishnu for Krishna's protection or something.
Oh, okay, yeah. But that was here. That was
here in Vrindavan. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know in the spiritual world that's like that. I don't know, because it's been a long time since I was there. And my memory isn't as good as it used to be.
Just to make an understatement.
I remember visiting a temple that Lord
Talk
Vishnu.
loud so you don't have to repeat.
I remember in Nandagram visiting a temple where the deity, they said, was Nanda Maharaja's. So if he had a deity, I believe he would be making offerings.
No, we're not talking about here. We're talking about on Krishna local planet.
Oh, okay.
Well, here we know. We don't know if they did.
There. Yeah. Everything's for Krishna.
Yeah.
It's direct.
Okay, I guess what did I do? I guess I could read another verse.
Yeah. Yesterday he read 3.
Okay, text 31, which I did not look at prior to today.
Pyare,
what?
Pyare Prabhu, Hare Krishna, Dandot Pranam. I have a question and a comment.
Okay.
So, the question is that Pyare Prabhu, Hare Krishna, Dandavot Pranam. I have a question and a comment. That
Okay. Hearing an echo of yourself.
that Krishna made this world when we were envious to him, and yeah,
Can't hear you.
yeah, is it okay now? I think.
All I heard was Krishna
Yeah.
made this world when we were envious to him.
Yeah. So is it the way Krishna made? Because some people want to merge into Krishna. So to fulfill their desire, he has made, Brahmajyoti is already there, and he does things to fulfill more than one purpose at a time. So Brahmajyoti is there, so he's fulfilling someone's desire to merge in Brahmajyoti. So what is that the purpose of Brahmajyoti, creating Brahmajyoti?
Krishna has this effulgence, and that's the Brahma Jyoti. Now, the way I look at it, that was there even before anybody desired to be in it.
Yeah, yeah.
And then,
Yeah.
but if you want to join that, you can join them.
Yeah,
And then from the Brahma Jyoti, you can also join Krishna's pastimes.
yeah,
You know, if you desire, if you're not satisfied, which eventually you won't be.
yeah. And the comment I had on the question of sleeping in Chaitanya Charitamrita Anta Leela, chapter 20, verse 11, it says, simply by chanting the holy name of Lord Krishna, one can be freed from all undesirable habits. This is the means of awakening all good fortune and initiating the flow of waves of love for Krishna.
Okay, undesirable what?
Habits.
Undesirable habits.
Habit. Well, it's not really like an undesirable habit that I sleep. We have to sleep.
Yeah,
Unless you're pure devotee, because every single devotee who's taken care of Prabhupada, you know, sleeping in the same room or in the next room, and they all say Prabhupada never slept.
yeah,
So, you know, he maybe he dozed off. I'm not saying he did or he didn't, but that he was always conscious of what's going around.
yeah.
But I think we were not talking about normal sleep, you know. We were talking about excessive sleep, I think, Wes. That's a bad habit.
Yes, excessive sleep issue, but normal sleep. But it's not a bad habit to sleep. Oh man, I slept again.
What I'm saying is more like getting up late, you know, later in the
No, I
morning.
understand what you're saying as a bad habit. I'm talking about what he's saying. It's a bad habit. It's not a bad habit to sleep. Even in the Bhagavad Gita, it says don't sleep too much or sleep too little.
Little,
So if you're sleeping, it's not a bad habit. You're supposed to sleep. I don't think they're talking about sleep. They're talking about so many other things we do that may be bad habits.
Yeah, yeah, true.
Not the sleeping. It's like eating, you know, well, we eat prasadam, so it's not bad. But there's so many things people do.
Yeah, I mean, isn't there a verse in the Bhagavad Gita which says you should not eat too much or eat too little, sleep too much or sleep too little, you know?
I said that.
Yes, yeah. And one should be regulated in his
Yeah,
temper,
one should be regulated.
This
rather than
70.
or ignorance.
John Varani?
Chapter 17, it explains.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, so yeah, there's so many things. There's so many practical verses as to what we should do. Ultimately, it boils down to always think of Krishna and never forget him.
Yeah,
That's ultimately it. If you do that, then you have no problems at all. At all. Even the problem that other people may think that that's a big problem you have, it's not a problem to you. You're always thinking of Krishna and never forgetting him. And yesterday, I think there was a question, something about, I didn't hear the whole thing, but about like when a saintly person is murdered, you know, how can that happen? Was there some question like that?
Yeah, saintly person was like, yeah, murdered or
I mean,
lynched.
we
You know.
can see they're different. First of all, Prabhupada was asked during the Second World War, if a bomb came down right here, you know, what would you think? And he said, I think that Krishna has come to take me back. So that's what it's for a saintly person. And if you look at Lord Jesus, he was not just murdered, he was crucified, which is really, really bad way to kill somebody, although we can debate whether he was killed or not. But he was crucified, and you know, it's like you tolerate these things. You see it coming from Krishna. You don't see it any other way. You don't see it, this person's murdering me, or it's for that reason. You see, it's Krishna's doing it. I mean, look at Jud Bharat. I mean, there's a long story of Jud Bharat. He was Bharat Maharaj, and then he went to the forest, gave up his kingdom, gave up his wife, gave up his children. Everything was really nice. He actually had a really nice, perfect situation. It's not like he was just fried out with his wife and kids. No, everything was perfect. He gave it all up for meditating on Krishna, went to the forest. He had plenty of money to be the king of the world. And he meditated in the forest. And then this lion was chasing a deer, and the deer was pregnant and went across the stream, and she gave birth, and she's running from the lion, left a baby, and the baby is alive. Bharat Maharaj decided to help the deer, kept the deer alive. And then after a while, he got really attached to the deer. He had a whole big kingdom. He had a perfect, beautiful wife. He had children. He was able to give all that up, but then he got attached to a deer. And because of that attachment, and it was really attachment. Now, one thing is you can feed him, you can take care of him, you can do that. But he was attached because even in his meditation, the deer wasn't around, and he'd be thinking, where's the deer? I don't know if he named the deer or not. And he'd look around and he'd break his meditation. And then he went looking for the deer, and he fell off a cliff and he died. And in his next birth, he became a deer. But in that deer, as a deer, he went where the sages were in the forest, and he would listen to them. And he remembered his past life as a deer. Most of us don't remember. He remembered that he was the king of the world. And he remembered exactly how he got that body as a deer. And he would listen to them. And sometimes if they left some prasadam, he would eat their remnants. And then the next birth, he took birth in a Brahmin family, but he was very, very careful not to get entangled in anything in this world. And he thought he'll just do everything wrong. So nobody gives him any respect. Nobody, people don't expect anything of him. So he is a Brahmin. They try to tell him to eat with his right hand, he'd eat with his left hand. He just did everything wrong. And he didn't want to get attached to anything in this material world. And was it Jud Bharat? It was Jud Bharat that they caught, right? Yeah. And then these people who were worshiping goddess Kali were looking for a human sacrifice, a kind of a useless person. And they found him, and he was useless. He couldn't do anything. They used him, I think, as a scarecrow, try to keep birds away. But and they brought him, and they're going to sacrifice him. And he sees what they're doing, and he totally accepts. He doesn't try to fight back. He just, whatever they want to do, let them do it. But when they were trying to offer him, before they did, the goddess in the deity form, the deity broke open and the goddess came out and start attacking all these dacoits. Not just the goddess came out, but also her witches came out, and they killed them all. They drank their blood. And Judd Bart didn't get harmed at all, but he didn't try to defend himself in any way. Not saying that we should do that, but I'm saying for a devotee, he sees that everything is coming from Krishna. It's also interesting in that story that the deity broke open and the goddess came out, which I was thinking when I read that, how the goddess is different than the deity, whereas Krishna would just do it as the deity would start doing whatever he wanted to do, walking around, just like the deity when the bear witness was that Sachi Gopal, right? Sachi Gopal, who walked for miles, many miles as a deity. But anyway, that's just one way I looked at it. I never heard that from anybody else. So how would a devotee see it if there's somebody kills him? A real devotee would see it's Krishna. Krishna's come to take me back. I mean, it's very, very sinful, of course, for the people who do it. They're going to get their reaction. But for the devotee, he doesn't hold anything against them. I mean, even Jesus, who knows what really happened with Jesus, but he said, forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do, which I think that's exactly how they would think. You know, a pure devotee would forgive them because they're in ignorance. Okay, any other questions or comments before I end class? I was going to read another verse, but now there's not much time. Okay, well, I got 10 minutes. I'm going to read another verse in purport. Text 31. Yada bhuta pratag bhavam ekastam anupasyati tata eva cha vistaram brahma sampadyate tada. When a sensible man ceases to see different identities due to different material bodies, and he sees how beings are expanded everywhere, he attains to the Brahman conception. Okay, Gita Mala, maybe this verse is for you. When one can see that the various bodies of living entities arise due to the different desires of the individual soul and do not actually belong to the soul itself, one actually sees, which we read in the previous verse. In the material conception of life, we find someone a demigod, someone a human being, a dog, a cat, etc. This is material vision, not actual vision. This material differentiation is due to a material conception of life. After the destruction of the material body, the spirit soul is one. The spirit soul, due to contact with material nature, gets different types of bodies. When one can see this, he attains spiritual vision, thus being freed from the differentiations like man, animal, big, low, etc. One becomes purified in his consciousness and able to develop Krishna consciousness in his spiritual identity. How he then sees things will be explained in the next verse. Translation again, when a sensible man ceases to see different identities due to different material bodies, and he sees how beings are expanded everywhere, he attains to the Brahman conception. So that would be the first conception, would then be the Brahman conception, the first spiritual conception, that we're not this body. But in here it says, after the destruction of the material body, the spirit soul is one. Doesn't mean it's one, we're all one soul. It's we're one individual soul. Everyone is an individual soul. I mean, in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna said, never was there a time when I did not exist, nor you, nor all these kings, nor in the future shall any of us cease to be. So he's stressing individuality, both in now and in the past and in the future. So we're all individuals, but in material conception of life, we find someone a demigod. We can see in another verse, the humble sage sees with equal vision a learned and gentle Brahmin, a dog eater, an outcast. He sees everyone equal because he sees the soul. But it's not that he just sees the soul and he doesn't see the body. He sees the body too, just like the body of a tiger. He sees the body and he deals with the tiger differently than he deals with the Brahmin. Because in other words, if you just seen the soul, you just trip over the tiger. And he's not going to like it. Speaking of the tigers and how Krishna takes care of his devotees, there was a big, huge snake once. I think it was Haridas Thakur lived in a cave with this very, very big snake, very terrible snake that could have killed Haridas at any moment. But he felt completely protected by Krishna. But people visiting him were afraid to go because they were afraid of the snake. So then he went and they complained. So he went to a different cave. No, sorry. The snake left. The snake left because Krishna, in the snake's heart, I don't know what snake must have a heart, but somewhere in that snake, there's the super soul and the soul. And he told the snake to leave. So he left, so Haridas could stay. But the devotee does see everything. We should try to have that vision. Whatever our situation, good or bad, we should see it. It's Krishna's put me in this situation to help me to surrender to him, to help me become more Krishna conscious. Help me become detached from this world.
When something good happens to us, it's easy to think that, but when something bad happens to us,
when something bad happens, that's when you think he's helping me get detached from this material world. This is a horrible place. I don't like it here. If only good things happened, we'd be very happy with him and not really so anxious to go back. We have to have bad, even Queen Kunti prayed for calamities, because when calamities happen, when there's difficulties, when there's problems, then I take shelter of you, and taking shelter of you means no more repeated birth and death. So why should I, why should I lament?
And are you saying people who are materially fortunate in this world are not necessarily spiritually fortunate? Because it's easier for them to think everything is nice and wonderful here.
No, but you could be detached. Prabhupada says you can be a millionaire and not be attached, or you can be a pauper and attached to your penny. So it depends on how attached you are. But it's certainly easier to give up a penny than to give up millions of dollars.
Yes.
But it's harder if you're really materially wealthy, very wealthy. It's harder to give that up and to be detached from it. So if you lose it, something happens. That's Krishna's arrangement. You should be able to see every problem. I mean, we don't like to have problems, especially really big, serious problems. But we should see it. It's Krishna's mercy. How is it Krishna's mercy? It is Krishna's mercy because I actually deserve worse than this, and it's some test, and it's helping me become detached from this material world. I mean, there's that story of a king and his servant, and the king What happened to the king? Why did he put him in jail?
His thumb gets
What?
cut off or something
No,
like that.
no. Before
No,
that.
not that one.
It's that one, but you're telling the end of the story. That's not the
Oh.
beginning. The beginning is, I don't remember exactly what happened, but something bad.
For hunting. The king and his associate.
Minister went for.
Are you all going ahead? What? Oh, what?
For hunting.
For hunting? What for hunting?
They went for hunting, and over there, the king lose his finger.
No.
His thumb or finger, and then the
Oh.
minister says it happens.
Oh,
Everything happens for the
okay.
good.
That's, yeah, he lost his finger in that. Right. And he said,
And he
that's
says, "How
Krishna's
can that be
mercy."
for my good?" Yeah, losing a finger.
He says,
And then they're caught by some dacoits or something like that, and they want to
no.
sacrifice him. And because he
No.
has lost his finger, they feel he's not good enough for a sacrifice and let him go.
Yeah, but you missed the part. But anyway, that's all right. He arrested his servant. He put him in jail for saying that.
Right.
That's a pretty big part to forget because, and then he went hunting, and then he was captured, and then they didn't sacrifice him because of his finger. So he came back. He let him out of jail, and he says that was very good that you know it was Krishna's mercy that I lost my finger. Otherwise, I would have been killed. And he said, but how is it Krishna's mercy that you went to jail? He said, because otherwise I would have been with you and they would have killed me.
Yeah.
So it was Krishna's mercy for both of them. So whatever bad thing happens, you may not see how it's Krishna's mercy, but you have to have faith that it is and try to see how it is. What I see a lot is what Krishna wants me to learn from it. He's trying to teach me something. What am I supposed to learn from it? Even if I get that, I'm happy. Even something, whatever it may be, at least I learned some lesson from it. So we have to try to always see everything that happens to us is coming from Krishna, and it's coming from Krishna. It's his mercy. It's coming from Krishna. It's good for me. I may not see how it's good for me, but it is. And that's the way a devotee should always think. And the more we can think like that, the more of a devotee we are, the better devotee we are. I mean, it's maybe unfortunate that we have to have some bad things happen to us in order for us to really take shelter of Krishna and try to think of him. But sometimes that's what is necessary. I don't want too much. I wouldn't pray like Queen Kunti for calamities. You get enough happening without having to pray for it. And I wouldn't pray for it because then if bad things happen, then I might blame myself. It's not Krishna, it's me that asked for it. But Krishna, as he sees fit, does what is necessary. Everything that happens to us, Krishna has his hand in it. Not for the karmis, but for the devotees. Krishna personally takes charge, makes sure that certain things happen or certain things don't happen. He takes care of his devotees. And everything he does for us is to help us. It's like a parent who may punish the child. You may not know why he's punishing me, or I shouldn't be punished in this way for that, but it's ultimately to help the child. So we're like children. And also it's just a bodily concept that we're suffering. It's not spiritually, we're not hurt at all. Just this body, this machine. So a car gets a flat tire, it's a big deal. You know, something happens with this body, it's a big deal. It's not really a big deal, it's just a vehicle. Anyways, that's Krishna consciousness, is trying to see everything in your own life as being, that Krishna's doing it. You don't blame this person or that person, it's Krishna. And he's doing it for me somehow. So I have to try to figure out what it is, how I'm supposed to benefit from this, how I'm supposed to react to it, how I'm supposed to use this opportunity to make more spiritual advancement. Okay, any other comments or questions? Somehow or other, I was able to go over 8 o'clock.
Good discussion.
Everybody's either muted or really quiet. All the comments or questions? I'll offer obeisances to Srila Prabhupada and all the Vaishnava devotees.
Thank you for the